name is Sarah Spradlin, and I'm proudly representing the University of Georgia MANRRS chapter, and today I'd like to present my speech to you, Take Up Your Sword. Sculpting minds, nurturing hearts, creating diverse leaders. It's what we're all here today for, together as one movement of people from every race, creed, and color. But there is one thing that differentiates us all. Each of us has a unique story that got us here today, to the 2017 MANRRS National Career Fair and Training Conference. Since the moment we first picked up our pens and began to write our story, we have had triumphs and failures, joys and discomforts, stresses and breakthroughs. It doesn't matter where I go. When I look beyond myself to the authors around me, their stories inspire me because I see potential for greatness, and not just one of them, but all of them. I see great stories still unwritten. We are a movement, a direct affront to a wealth of expectations and prejudices. But how do we make ourselves great? The secret to creating diverse leadership begins by sculpting minds and nurturing hearts. It begins by asking ourselves the question, am I working toward greatness, or have I forgotten to take up my sword? During medieval times, the sword was a sign of nobility and honor. Like our fingerprints, no sword was identical. Each had its own unique set of characteristics, strengths, and imperfections. Swords varied greatly from the length and make of their blade to the shape and weight of their hilts, but regardless, they were cherished by their bearers. The sword was said to be an extension of a knight's body, a weapon that defined his performance on the battlefield. Swords were carefully looked after. Neglecting your weapon was grounds for ridicule and humiliation, and no one wanted that. Perhaps it was for this reason swords never left a knight's side, even while he slept. We have each been offered a sword, a talent, a gifting that makes us special. It's up to us to choose how we use it, for good, for evil, or for nothing at all. Let me tell you a story about a girl named Christy, a story that inspires me to take up my sword. Christy was born into a broken home, victimized by bad habits passed down generation after generation. Abuse, fear, and insecurity were parts of Christy's everyday life. She grew up without a father she could rely on. Often, she wasn't sure where her next meal was coming from. There were times Christy would be awakened in the middle of the night, told to grab what belongings would fit in her arms, and be forced out of a home she had only known for a few months. Christy learned from watching those around her that it was easier to run away from your problems than to face them. Christy could have chosen to give up on hope, give in to fear, and follow a well-worn path, but she didn't. Instead, Christy chose to take up her sword, follow after the example of her Savior, Jesus Christ, and fight for a better future. Christy became the first of her family to graduate from high school and the first to attend college. She broke her family's traditions and created new ones. Her own family wasn't perfect, and it isn't always easy, but Christy never gave up. Her children grew up in a home where there was always enough to eat. Instead of dreading his return, Christy cherished the moments each day when her husband would come home from work. He never failed to give out that day's batch of hugs and kisses. Her children always felt loved and safe. Christy's choice to fight her battle didn't just impact her life. It impacted the lives of everyone she came into contact with, and will continue to impact lives, generations in the future, even if they don't know her name. Christy's story isn't spoken about on Good Morning America, isn't praised by New York Times, or immortalized in the Hall of Fame. But for my little sister and I, Christy's choice, our mother's choice, made all the difference. My mother didn't waste her chance to write a story worth telling, so neither should we. Leaders of today and tomorrow, we can't afford to waste the life that has been given to us, so choose to stand up for something important, something that will last longer than the latest fashion trends, impact more people than Facebook posts, mean something to us if it gets 0 retweets or 1,000. Let's make a choice to flip the cameras on our phones around so that we see less of ourselves and focus more on the world that desperately needs our help. As Albert Einstein said, the world is a dangerous place to live, not because of people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Because of people like you and me who make excuses for ourselves. I'm not smart enough. I'm not brave enough. I'm not good enough. I'm a nobody, and no one listens to nobodies. Let me tell you something. You are smart enough. You are brave enough. You are good enough. And so long as you believe you're a somebody in here, they'll believe that too. As Dr. Seuss and my high school mentor Dallas Cowan told me, kid, you'll move mountains, so why don't you start trying? Let's be the generation of people who don't stand by and watch the darker things of the world triumph over us. Let's make a stand for what's right. This thing called life is filled with a lot of scary stuff that will sometimes make you wish you didn't even get out of bed this morning. But the bright side to all of this is that you have an awesome, one-of-a-kind sword to defeat the scary stuff that attempts to rob the world of its goodness. So, will we choose to fight our battles today, or will we never show up to the battlefield at all? I challenge you to have the courage to fight so that when people ask you about your scars, you can tell them they're not from the times you allowed life to beat you down. Fight so that you can tell them your scars are from the times you stood up against life and won. Ladies and gentlemen, we are called by God to do great things, so don't let your disabilities, your trials, your perceived limitations keep you from doing great things. You are a somebody who has a chance and opportunity to make a difference, to change your world. So how will you choose to use your sword? What great things will you write into your story? The world is waiting for you to make history. Sculpting minds, nurturing hearts, creating diverse leaders. This year's conference theme challenges us to be leaders, and the hardest part about all of this is belief. Believing that despite being stepped on, being pushed away, and being forced out, you still have a sword. That you still belong in this fight. And I'll be honest with you, these are doubts that I struggle with daily. But I think the most powerful truth to combat these doubts with is simple. We are not alone. Look around yourself. You're a member of an organization, but more than that, you are the members of a movement. Together, through diversity, by swords that fit us like fingerprints, we lead a great movement because we believe that we are strong, because we raise our swords. There may come a day when our swords may fail, but it is not this day. Let's show them that we are ready to take up our swords. Thank you.